Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today we have a very special guest for a very important subject. We have Alex Lawson from Executive Director of Social Security Works. Alex, how are you doing today?
Well, thank you for having me again.
Well, look, here's the issue. I like you, but having you on usually doesn't come because I like you. It comes because there is something serious happening in the country, and you being the executive director of Social Security Works mean that it's something that you have to be out there fighting for. Mm-hmm. There's this new article that came out at Common Dreams that quoted you, and when I read the article, I said, you know what, I got to get in touch with Alex because this isn't right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why is it that Social Security recipients right now, and tell me if I have it right, they're having their $1,400 checks delayed.
Yep. I mean, that's it. And I think important to note, the last checks, the $600 checks, they were automatically deposited into people's accounts. And the debit cards went out to people who didn't have the direct deposit. So the Social Security Administration knows exactly what they're supposed to do. They know exactly what the intent of Congress when they passed this money was. Congress said people on Social Security, people on SSI, people on the railroad retirement pension plan, they should get their checks. But Social Security Administration, which is Andrew Saul and David Black at the top of it, who are two Trump appointees, they're just total Trumpists. They drag their feet because what they want to do is they want people to get angry at Biden for not getting their checks. And you know what? People are angry because they were counting on the $1,400 being deposited into their accounts, just like the $600 was. People watched on the television when they saw that the bill had passed. They made financial decisions based on their understanding of what was going to happen, which was that they were going to get the $1,400. And then they didn't. So we have a lot of people in this country facing hardship. They need to pay their rent. They're behind on one of their bills. And it is all because of these two Trumpists at the top of the Social Security Administration, again, Andrew Saul and David Black, that Biden has not fired. And it's time. Biden needs to act now. He needs to replace these guys. They're sabotaging his agenda.
Now, tell me a little bit about these guys. What do you know about them?
A lot. You'll have to reel me in. But I mean, really, the way it is David Black should be fired months ago. I mean, this guy is absolutely the architect of dismantling Social Security from the inside. And there's nothing protecting him at all. There is not even a hint or a whiff of any protection. He absolutely serves at the pleasure of the president, who can fire him right now, immediately. So David Black is the architect. He's actually the guy, the ideologue, who sees Social Security and the success of this program and the fact that people love this program. They love it. And he sees that as a negative thing because he doesn't want anything that works. He doesn't want government that works. He wants to break anything that works. Social Security works. The post office works. Public education works. That's why they want to destroy all of them, right? It's the old right-wing scam. Kneecap the mailman, then complain that the mail is late, and then you just happen to have a cousin who's in the private mail delivery business, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. So David Black is the architect. He's the big brain. Andrew Saul is just a dilettante. He just feels entitled to this position. He's a rich guy. He's always been rich. He gives money to Republicans, and in return, he wants some office that he can wear on his blazer because that's what makes him feel important. But he doesn't care or care to know about anything to do with the system. This is a guy who Social Security is massive, trillions of dollars, 70,000 people working in the administration. This guy didn't even move to Maryland when he became commissioner. He just
Really?
stayed in New York. He was an absentee boss. He didn't even check in to his email system for 6 months after he took the job. And the only reason that he did was because someone told him that was FOIA-able and it would make him look bad that he never actually checked into the system and used it to do his job. This is a guy who just sits in a chair, and it's not about the check for him, right? Like, this is a rich guy. It's about this sort of entitled, do you know who I am, sir, kind of way. And just the final little note on that, do you know who I am? This is also a guy who, this is totally, you can check this. It's a great story. He's riding his bike in New York, and a cop is like, hey, you can't ride your bike wherever he was. And this isn't about whether or not the ticket, but what Andrew Saul did is he was like, do you know who I am?
Oh,
I
really?
am the public safety commissioner of New York and have a license to ride my, and he lied that he impersonated. So he pulled out a piece of paper and impersonated a public official in order to try to get out of a bike ticket, which he didn't do. He didn't get out of a bike ticket. I feel like that story really encapsulates who Andrew Saul is. He is the do you know who I am guy. And he also can be fired by President Biden. It's a little bit of a different process, but he can absolutely be fired by President
But
Biden, especially.
all these guys that are protected by the GSA or these other structures, even if they're not fired, they can be placed on hiatus and you put the person you want in there. Is that right?
And actually, it's even more because of a Supreme Court ruling under Trump, when Trump was trying to get rid of the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Board. The Supreme Court has ruled specifically that these independent agencies, the heads of them still serve at the pleasure of the president. You know, the president is the top of the executive arm. This is part of the executive arm. So he can fire them. It has to be a little bit more. There's just a little bit more. But, you know, he has cause. This is absolute delaying 30 million people's Social Security. I mean, relief checks. People, seniors and people with disabilities, the people who have been hammered by this pandemic. He delayed 30 million people's checks in order to sabotage Joe Biden. If that's not cause, I don't know what is.
Well, Alex, one of the things that we, you know, I always talk about, progressives are generally not very good marketers. It seemed to me like this is something that can be used against not only Trump per se, but the Republican methodology in general, because again, look at what leaving one of Trump's people in office does to you, and then you get rid to hell of all of them, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that it's also, let's say it was just 1 year case would be made, but we have more than one example, right? I mean, we're talking about Social Security right here, but look at the Postal Service.
Oh God,
the joy. The
yes.
joy is I mean, like, he just openly said, I'm going to make America's post service terrible, and I'm going to charge you more. Oh, by the way, I literally have a conflict of interest, a monetary conflict of interest with a firm that would benefit from destroying the Postal Service. Like, he just out in the open. You have DeJoy, you have Saul and Black, and then you have the Border Patrol, who are concocting an entire narrative to advance their agenda, their white nationalist agenda, their anti-immigrant agenda. And they're trying to corner Biden on it. And the media, you know, not independent media like you, but man, the media, they're just like patsies for this, just hook, line, and sinker every time. So we don't need to wonder about this, right? Three's a trend. We know what happens when you leave these Trumpists in your flank. They're going to flank you. They're going to stab you right in the back. They're going to do everything they can to sabotage the Biden administration, the American people, in order to win an election in 2022 and 2024 so they can take power again. And it's the height of naivete to think anything else is going on here.
I always thought that one of the reasons they are generally successful about that is that we fight back so poorly. just like how we've allowed the media to create a narrative. Biden today, I think, did a fairly good job in dispelling the narrative in his press conference. This press conference was orders of magnitudes better than I expected it to be. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, my only criticism was that the media were just, classic. They just did not get there. It's just all puffery.
Well,
Biden
yeah, because
did a good job.
They didn't even talk. They didn't ask one question about COVID.
What about the vaccine rollout? What
Not
about
one.
They didn't. What? How do you look around and you're like, you know what? I don't think people are into it. But actually, I have an answer. I know how. It's because these are people who work in an institution that's first on the list, right? Like first head of the line. And I want people to get the vaccine. So I'm happy that journalists get the vaccines. But I'm talking about the publishers, the editors, the whole institution are people who aren't wondering when they're going to get the vaccine because they already got the vaccine. Right. That's the problem with the corporate media is disconnected from the reality of people. Right? And it just ties into what happened with Social Security. This is Andrew Saul and David Black saying that 30 million Americans who have borne the brunt of the pandemic are at the back of the line for you, right? After everybody else, maybe we'll take care of you and get those payments out to you. And it's just sick. It's just sick. And, without truth tellers and independent media like you, we're just, there's no alternative, right? Like, so I went to my favorite place of saying the corporate media are terrible because they are. You started with Biden did a good job at the presser, which I actually agree with, especially the bar that was set for him by Fox News.
That's what I mean. Yes.
His head was going to fall off. Right?
I know. But what was interesting is that the good thing about it is that the preamble to the event, he talked about the vaccine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that I think is important. But I think also it's important for what I call the progressive media to do its job. In other words, not to buy into the hype. On my show, I don't cover, I tell people about immigration. I tell people I'm not covering Cuomo. I'm not covering immigration. I'm not covering any of that because those are really smoke screens. With Cuomo, not so. That's just not my purview. But with the immigration and all those other things, that's not what we want to do. I think it is important, however, Alex, that we get this message out. I didn't learn about this. I don't know why not. I didn't learn about it until I read your quote inside of Common Dreams. And it was immediately, to me, something that needed to be exploded right away. I don't think I heard it. I listened to MSNBC and CNN all day today, and I don't think I heard it once.
No, and that's what I mean. I mean, that's the problem with the corporate media. And there has been some real champions on this. Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio, who's the chair of the Social Security Committee in the Senate, and then Representative Lawson, the chair in the House. Bill Pascrell, another House member who's great. Just been amazing on this, and they've been attack dogs. And if it wasn't for them, these guys, people still wouldn't be getting their checks. There'd be no plan to get their checks.
Have they started sending them out?
No, they went on the attack. Yes, I loved watching this hardball because these members of Congress on the House side, they went to Andrew Saul and they said, you have 24 hours. So let me actually say, IRS asked the Social Security Administration for a file that they needed this data in order to get the stuff out. They asked for that weeks ago, and Social Security Administration had not given them the file. That's the delay. That's how they created this delay. And the members in the House said 24 hours. You have 24 hours, and then we're going to bring you in front of, we're going to subpoena you. And he did it. He was forced to buy these.
They have the data now.
They gave him the data. That means we're looking at as soon. I don't want to get people's hopes up, but as soon as early next week, is where we could be seeing these checks finally getting into people's hands. And again, I know you know this, but I just want to reiterate: it's Social Security. We're talking about people who are getting by on so little money, $15,000 a year. And we're also talking about people on SSI who are some of the poorest people in this country. And that's who got put at the back of the line. People with disabilities, seniors, and poor people. A lot of homeless people are on SSI. I mean, this is vulnerable communities. And that's who Andrew Saul attacked. And that's who he hurt with this. And that's why Biden cannot allow him to serve even one more day in this position, because he's not serving.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Well, look, thank you for all that work that you're doing, my friend. Now, please, what would you like to tell our audience that I simply didn't ask you?
Just plug in on this fight. Raise the temperature on this. You can go to socialsecurityworks.org. You can find out all the resources there, and be a happy warrior, because I will say we're fighting about getting this cash into people's pockets, and that's important. And that's because we won on a $1.9 trillion plan for the American people. And that was with Democrats just driving that through against all of the Republican opposition. And we have another big fight coming up, infrastructure, drug prices, and the reconciliation. Say that again.
S1.
Huge fight. So yes. I feel like two giant fights coming up. Democracy, the future of democracy with S1, HR1, and also the reconciliation bill, which is an investment in the American people. We have to fight these battles, and we have to keep on driving forward to achieve our vision.
We got to go. I want to say one thing, and I don't know if you're saying before I go here, and that is, right now a lot of Democrats are hurting, or not hurting, but are kind of haggling on Joe Manchin. I just want to tell all our audience, look, right now we don't want a Jeffers occurrence again. I don't know if you remember Jeffers back in the early days, jumped from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. We want to kind of play this stuff intelligently, and with guys like you and others, please ensure that people play this card until 2022, when we win 2 more senators. Executive Director of Social Security Works, Alex Lawson, thank you once again for being here on Politics Done Right.
Thanks so much.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.